Well, welcome. And today is what? It's Tuesday, October 25th. And we are having our special work session today. And I would officially like to call the meeting to order. And are there any additions or corrections, modifications, or substitutions to the current agenda? There are none. Okay. So we are officially.
So here's the good news. Now my introduction is going to be
Keep on
shorter.
going, yeah.
It's going to be shorter than it was. So anyway, I want to tell you, as I told the administrative council today, a couple of things that have happened over the past year have been so good for us, and that I really initially wasn't even, a fan of or supportive of. The streaming video, which I would not give up for anything, and these work sessions, which I would not give up for anything. But I think the extension of what the board has done in the last couple of years around, the view of what the business we do by the community, I think the extension of that is K-12 Insights. So we're really fortunate. Dan is a vice president, and I'll let him introduce himself, but he's the guy that knows what their capacity is and how we can utilize that. Thanks for coming, Dan.
My pleasure. Thank you, Lonnie. Thank you, members of the board. Appreciate the invitation. Excited to be here. My name is Dan Carter. I'm the Senior Vice President of Client Care for K-12 Insight. And I want to start by saying that, this isn't about surveys. This is about survey. This is about creating a conversation that the district can have with every single stakeholder group out there, internal and external, and allowing them to be part of the process. And, my goal today is to give a real top-level view and talk about some of the things that we have planned for the district this year. Trust capital and civic capacity, new imperatives for school boards and superintendents. I know I don't have to tell anyone in this room what that means. A little background on our company. We're serving well over 300 school districts across the country since 2004. We have strategic partnerships with AASA, NSPRA, and 12 other state affiliates of AASA and NSBA. What is trust capital? How do you replenish those reserves out there with all of your stakeholders? What we found is that really the climate of education has changed. It used to be that the school district was that magnet within the community that everyone was drawn to, and it still is to an extent, but how do you have a conversation and be able to engage those folks that are out there who may not necessarily have kids in the district and engage and allow them to be part of the process? And that's what I'm going to talk about today. So why do you worry about it? As I said before, I don't think I have to tell anyone in this room why you should worry about it, but budget shortfall, bond referendum, strategic planning, reconfiguration, rezoning, passionate issues that you deal with, closing under-enrolled schools, underperforming schools, new school construction, school choice, adding and cutting programs. All of these issues are passionate issues that the community wants to be involved in. So how do you do that? Civic capacity, the ability to build and maintain a coalition in pursuit of a common goal, the ability to receive a mandate for change, the capacity to follow and deliver on a vision through popular support. We've just seen with districts across the country how there's a large group out there that just, they feel they're not part of the process, they're not close to the district, but they have a vested interest in the district. And, how do you challenge folks internally and externally to make that connection? And it's not an easy task. So I want to step back a little bit and lay some groundwork here. It used to be that through your local community newspaper, you could get your message out. 70, 80% of the folks, maybe 60% would actually read it. Now what you're dealing with is a number of different media streams out there. You've got Twitter, Facebook, you've got blogging that goes on, and you've got folks that are out there that they're afforded a certain level of anonymity. They can go and put whatever they want out there. So now the district and the school board has this responsibility to respond to a lot of information that may be unfounded and untrue. It's a huge task to undertake. And when you have folks within the community that it's amazing how they can pick up one little bit, one little piece of information, and now they feel like they're an expert. And the problem that you deal with is there's a number there's quite a bit of misinformation out there. So I apologize, I have to be real careful with that little wheel. Waiting for Superman, I'm not going to talk about the movie, but it's just an example of, I formulated my opinion on this movie in about 30 seconds after watching a clip on CNN. It's amazing to me the burden that school districts have, and I see this all across the country, in trying to get their message out there. They send a ton of information out. We're in a day and age now where we need to have a conversation with the folks that are out there, your constituents that are out there. How do you do that in a clear and concise way and do it systemically and systematically? So, cave people, you probably think I'm talking about that. I'm actually talking about these folks, Citizens Against Virtually Everything. We have no problem with those folks out there. They're doing their civic duty. But they're typically organized. They're getting their message out. People are hearing it. They're able to reach folks now, 5,000, 10,000 people with this little gadget right here. So that's their voice that's getting out. How do you make sure that you get your voice out there? And that's what we're going to talk about today. I don't think it's just having focus groups, which we do and help school districts with. I think you need to do a number of different things. And you need to make sure that every single person that's out there has that ability to be part of the process. So trust obviously translates to civic capacity. A quick top-level view, systemic and systematic. Each year school districts start with a plan. This is just a couple of examples of 2 non-teaching learning activities that are already systemic and systematic. Transportation and cafeteria. You would never start the school year without a plan for each of those things. You know you need to get the kids there. You know you need to feed them. We believe you need to have a 2-way engagement strategy that's part of your overall communication plan, and you should have it each and every year. And that's what we build for you. So districts in the past, what they've done, they reach out to the community when they need them. Typically when they reach out, it's an episodic, ad hoc, random, reactionary fashion. What we talk about is ensuring that this plan is in place and that everyone out there knows that they'll have the opportunity to participate. So imagine this is your standard bell curve here. Imagine this is the opinion spectrum on any given issue. You hear from the folks who feel yes or no. You hear from them all the time. They let you know how they feel in their position. How do you reach those folks that are out there, that reasonable crowd, that silent majority, and make them part of the process? And I'm going to get into some details on that today and part of the conversation. We find that group, they're ready to be engaged. They just don't know how to do it. They can't come to board meetings. They're hit with a number of different surveys. How do you create a platform where you have an ear to the community and they're allowed to be part of that process? And that you're consistently and clearly putting your message out there and gaining feedback so you have something tangible. When you need to make those difficult decisions as part of your due diligence in making that decision, having some response from the community other than maybe a focus group or some community meetings that you might have. How do you make sure that that conduit is out there that allows everyone to be part of the process? So building a relationship with those folks, creating a level of transparency that's been difficult for districts to do, collaborative decision-making, educating and informing, immunizing yourself from those missed blogs and tweets that are out there, helping you build a brand so you can leverage it, and really marketing your vision for the district. And also making sure that the only voice that's out there isn't the voice that comes from the naysayers. You need to have a clear and consistent approach to putting that message out there and also getting their feedback and their thoughts. How do we do it? It's through a subtle and powerful combination of communication and research. I talked about one-way communication, not engaging but still very important. Can we remember a time when school districts focused on one thing, and that was teaching kids. Now they've got to worry about marketing what their vision is. They've got to worry about bringing in community support. We found that, since this advent of technology, and really over the last 30 years, that folks have become disenchanted and just disengaged. So two-way communication, looking at surveys is a method to do that and have an engagement with your constituents out there. Not instruments of mere research is a way to forge a two-way dialogue, using that dialogue to educate and inform of opportunities and challenges before the district. And doing this through well-planned communication, earning the sympathy, support, and trust one person at a time of all of your stakeholder groups. And, the most important part is that everyone knows they'll be able to participate. We've created a Your Voice window as part of the district's website that allows folks to go in and be part of the process. There's an introduction by the superintendent. And that's part of weaving this into the fabric and culture of your district, that this is a district where you don't have to shout to be heard. So beyond traditional research, we know districts are out there doing data collection. We make sure that you're asking the right questions. All of this work is kept in a centralized repository for benchmarking and trend analysis, sharing those findings on that Your Voice section of your website, all the analysis, interpretation, and reporting that's done by us, and also showing you your increased participation over time, and also the controls for data integrity, so that you don't have someone who's sitting there retaking that survey over and over and over again. Part of the process is really setting the stage. You can't just throw a survey out there and say, please fill this out. We write the communication that's on the front end that welcomes the individual to the process, invites them to take the survey, and lets them know why you're reaching out and how important it is. And then, of course, creating that tool, doing the collection, the analysis, reporting, and interpretation. And the most important piece here is closing the loop with those folks. And that's what we write for the district, so that you can share that information and they know that they've invested their time and that you appreciate it. And this is what you're going to do with it. Part of the wealth of experience that we have is working with districts all across the country, in addition to the state of Idaho. So we know what's out there. We know what this data means and how you should use it. And we do this on each and every engagement. So what does that do? It builds trust with those folks that you reach out there. And people will talk about it. Your participation rate will be where it is at one time in the beginning. You'll slowly, incrementally, will help you build that over time and bring more folks to the stage. And that's the most difficult piece. And the only way you're going to do that is not by being random, ad hoc, and reactionary. It's by doing it year in and year out. So this is what we look like. We have a communication and public relations team in our office in Herndon, Virginia, which is just outside of Washington, D.C. They deal with all these high-level issues. When you're looking at creating a tool of engagement in preparation for creating a strategic plan or anything of that nature, any climate survey work that we would do, they write all of the messages on the front end and the back end that are shared with the community. Our research team, which is headed up by Dr. Steve Knobloch, he was the former director of research of a district out in Virginia, Loudoun County Public Schools. He runs our research team and does all the reporting for you, ensuring that it's jargon-free so everyone can understand it. And then, of course, our technology engine, which is the platform. All of this activity is kept within a calendar, within a centralized repository on our platform. And, of course, there's full help desk support and training for everyone within the district who needs to leverage the platform for survey work. And that basically plugs right into your central office. So how do we do it? Your district is like no other. We do a tremendous amount of due diligence on the front end in understanding your unique history, unique community, unique challenges, your priorities and goals, and we build a plan around that. Everything's fully customized. I mentioned the pre- and post-survey communications that we do, and then also creation of a survey calendar to enforce a systems approach. Again, the key here is that everyone is invited to participate. helping the school sites welcome their parents and invite them to be part of the process, all the training and support. It's multimodal so that no one out there within the district doesn't have the opportunity to participate. We would never want anyone to say that you're catering to the haves and the have-not and not the have-nots. Translation services, looking at pockets within the community where maybe those folks where English isn't a first language. We reach out to them in a clear, concise effort, make sure that our surveys are translated and invite them to be part of the process. Partnership with your community-based organizations, churches, civic organizations, and libraries, and of course build and maintain that high-quality email database of parents. And also go out and get voter registration information and build out that connection with the folks that don't necessarily have kids within the district.
Heather, didn't you reach out to the Catholic Church on the dual immersion survey to get the Hispanic parents involved with that?
Yeah, St. Charles.
Was it well received?
You know, I think we've had a really good response with the paper surveys. We haven't been able to track where all of those have come from, but they announced all of the parent meetings during the Spanish Mass, and we knew that because when we handed out flyers, several of the parents said, oh, we heard about this at church already. Mm-hmm. And then the surveys went to church for the last 2 Saturdays before they were due back. So.
And what does that show? That shows initiative by the district to get these folks involved.
Dan, what would you prefer? Would you like to complete your presentation, or do you want it a little more interactive?
We can handle it any way you prefer. And I know these meetings are typically pretty interactive, so I'm happy to pause. And please, anytime while I'm talking, just interrupt me. There we go. Go ahead.
So there we go. Now
fire away. To be perfectly honest, I enjoy this type of format much better than just me talking. I do enough talking.
Well, before it gets too far, there was a slide, I don't know if it's the last one before, you talked about a survey calendar.
Yes. You want to see it?
Well, he actually has ours, so that's in the presentation, so he'll come up on and show you both how
Why
they
don't
lay
I
out
bring it
in
up?
our own calendar.
You know what? I got to bring the mouse with me.
Or you can just tell me what it is, and then when we get to it, I was
Well-
just wondering.
Yeah, it's. I would have to do it this way either way. So, it's not part of the presentation. It's a pretty lengthy document.
Oh, okay.
So why don't I just go right to the calendar? And this is in its draft format. At the end of the day, what we'll do is we'll finalize to a certain extent this calendar of events, this calendar of engagement opportunities that you're going to have with each and every stakeholder group. So, this is what we've done so far. We've done the survey of surveyors and, of course, released the dual immersion program survey, which I believe closed yesterday. So if you could take a look at the respondents group and just kind of remember that, because I have to scroll down a little bit. I think I can get most of it in there. There you go. So this is, as of right now, what we recommend, incorporating also some conversations that are necessary within the district that you plan on doing this year. Lonnie, the intent is to take this back and then formalize it and finalize it. So this is the working document of where we're at thus far. And you can see how we're reaching out to each and every stakeholder group. And as you reach out to the community, they're going to know each and every year that they're going to be able to participate. And, creating these engagements is one component of the overall conversation. And as I get further down throughout the presentation, I'll tell you a little bit more about how we interact and allow folks to be part of the process.
So can this be like a working
It's
calendar?
always a working
Is it
document.
Something that can be added to?
It's
Is it
always a working
add an
document.
additional-
Yes, it's always a working document. Say
Yeah.
there's an initiative that has come to the board's attention that you need to address, whatever it may be. It may be around building maintenance, whatever it might be. You call us, you let Heather know, you call us, we'll create a customized tool to help you reach out and gain feedback.
Yeah, just a quick question.
Is there like an overload number where you say you don't want to exceed 12 surveys a year? What's that magic number?
This is pretty heavy. You know, we recommend being in that anywhere from 6 to 10 surveys
per
a year.
group, per different group.
Yeah, you want to be careful. Now you can see that staff are hit quite a bit, but notice where the percent sign, that means it's a percentage of the staff. You know, obviously the exit survey, you know, that's for folks that are leaving the district. New hire mentoring effectiveness, that's only for teachers within their first couple of years in service. They're the most, you know, susceptible to burnout and fatigue. So how well is your mentoring process going with them? The, you know, survey of surveyors, that was for site level administrators.
So going out to the public.
Once or twice a year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that parents for
Yeah.
5?
Can you just move that up a little
Yeah,
bit? so
parents
we
is the green.
Parents is the green.
For 5.
Yep, for 5.
And community is the last one?
Notice that you've got parent exit survey. So that's with a select group.
So, okay, so.
Do
that
immersion
particular
programs,
Parent exit survey, I believe, and Heather, you can correct me, is actually the one that we wanted to do for the graduating seniors, but we didn't have it put together, so by the time we did, we said we're gonna do it anyway. That's a select group. I think if you move down that thing and you see, let me look at it, climate survey on site level issues, which is 2A, 2B, and 2C, that's specific to the schools, so that's not the whole, that's not all the parents, that's a group of parents. So when you look at this thing, it probably does lay out, Dan, kind of like you said, it's probably maybe 3 generally that a parent would take, including my own school site survey.
That's correct.
Yeah.
That's correct. So I think this
And
is...
I think we should take that climate survey on central office issues out of there.
Yeah, what does that even mean?
No, I'm just kidding. I think it's just.
I don't know what that means.
Well, for instance, are you going to show that? You talked to us about. Are you going to show that one slide that you showed where it's informational? And remember the first time they put something out was 20%, and then once
Absolutely.
Okay, so I think that would go to the client to the.
Absolutely. Perfect
Mrs.
example.
Graves asked what the Central Climate Survey on. It's a chance for us to inform our patrons about what we do. So he's going to actually come to that, and then when he comes to it, we'll come back to
Okay.
that.
Great. So I'm going to jump back to the presentation here.
Thank you for showing us this.
No worries. So that survey calendar that I just showed you, based upon your strategic plan or equivalent, a lot of the work that we do is fully customized to the district. So even before a strategic plan is put into place, we'll help create tools that help evaluate and identify those key issues that you want to address in the strategic plan. And then also, once it's implemented, and I'm just simply using this as an example, create a tool that can measure the metrics of success or not via the strategic plan. And also putting together a plan to help share that information with the community. Because, you know, the community, they might know a strategic plan exists. Well, what is that? What are the key issues on that? Do you want to give them a 20-page document? They're never going to do that. How do you put it into context? And we can share that through Your Voice, which is part of the website. So less is more, elimination of duplication and redundancy. What we found, and there was a district in Texas where we did a survey of surveyors for them once we became a partner with them, and they were doing 169 surveys across 19 campuses. It's a lot of surveys. You know, do you really think that parents are going to participate after that third survey? No. So this is a way of putting together a clear and concise approach to reaching out. And also taking advantage of that opportunity to have a conversation. Don't just be selfish and reach out for data. Let them know why it's important. And there's a real art and science to that, and that's what we bring to the table. So eliminate survey fatigue and eliminate the data gaps due to undersurveying, if they exist. This is a standard prescription that we would recommend to a district. So you saw what the district has now, where we've incorporated some of the things that that are particular to the district and your goals. So this is really where it's not a far stretch from the standard prescription. We basically just incorporated a couple of pieces. And this is our starting point. I can tell you right now, that no district is alike. As I said before, this becomes a living, breathing, working document that we revisit throughout the year. Go ahead, Catherine.
So can you explain what that climate survey and site level issues means? I saw that in our calendar as well.
Absolutely. Lonnie, you want to give some
Well,
background on that based upon,
Yeah.
because we tweak that to incorporate a number of things. Really, it's a baseline of reaching out to, how well was your site prepared for school? Reaching out to parents on, issues around safety and so forth within the school.
I think, for instance, Catherine, I could tell you, we want to use these to inform. So the climate survey on site level issues, one of the things that can help us do is inform parents, let's just take the middle school, for example, around our work on the IB program. So, we're going to send out a survey around the school, how parents feel about how the school's running, what the kids are getting. But it's also an opportunity for us, because this is what we're finding out in our own community after 3 years of trying to get that thing done. There's a lot of people that still don't understand it.
Yeah.
So I think it's an opportunity to do some of those kind of things.
Yeah.
And it's site-specific.
It is. It
Right.
can be
Yeah,
around.
I like that.
Yeah, it could be around food services, transportation, a lot of things, but it's site-specific. So what I would say that it is, it's your conversation relative to your site locations.
So-
It's not limited to, we've got a template that we utilize, but that's typically pretty customized.
Yeah, so I would say, for example, around that issue, the IB, it's our opportunity to help parents understand. Did you, the Wood River Middle School is in its third year preparing to become an international baccalaureate school. International baccalaureate puts an emphasis on, it could be a full paragraph, on 8 cores, particularly world language. And then you can ask a question about their receptivity to having their kids in world language, because we're starting to hear that some parents don't want to have their kids in IB starting in 6th grade in world language. So it's an opportunity to inform and also to kind of find out what the interest level is around it. So that's what I really like about it.
Like, for example, when he's talking about the language, if you just say, well, now your kid's required to take language,
Yeah.
as opposed to saying, colleges require at least 2 years of the language.
Right.
So in looking ahead to that and preparing your student for that opportunity when they go on, then we have put these things into our curriculum.
Right.
Into our
And why
system.
it's so important, how
Right.
it helps with your other skills and all those other things.
So it's an opportunity to
Yeah.
inform people why it's there.
To educate.
As well as,
Yeah.
how they feel about it.
For me, it's more exciting to use the tool as an informational tool to inform, almost as it is to get people's opinion, because it's a chance. When you just reach out and ask people's opinion, they're going to give it to you whether they understand anything about that topic or not.
Right.
And that's what's so
Right.
exciting for me. It's a way to get our message out there at the same time,
Right.
And it's making sure that each and every question is valuable.
and valid. And that's
And
the work that you guys do too.
And it's, we do this across the country. Everything that we do is tested, reliable, it's jargon-free. We make sure that there's a level of understanding in there. And really, that's why when I said at the beginning of the presentation, this isn't about a survey. This is about surveying and doing it in a way where they're really taking something out of it and they're learning something, not just
He's going to
providing
actually
it.
show you a couple examples of like what we were just talking about, informing.
Paul has the floor, he has a question.
Yes, sir.
You've mentioned several times that there's a threshold of tolerance for receiving and yes, participating in surveys. I presume you have data. You have some sort of body of information. Is it anecdotal? Is it something that you have noticed by conducting thousands
Numerous
of
surveys, thousands,
You start
tens
to
of
see,
thousands of
reductions
surveys.
in response
Yes.
and so on. I'm just wondering if you've got in the calendar that you've developed for us to this point, there's five categories of teachers, parents, staff, students, etc. Do you collect information, because each of those surveys targets one or maybe two or three of those different groups? Do you collect those totals of how many times have we targeted this particular group, say the parents at middle
Absolutely.
school? So that
Yeah,
we
we evaluate
understand
that.
if we're starting to reach that point of we've saturated these folks. And
Absolutely. As we create that tool, we always discuss the tolerance levels. And, we know from doing, thousands of surveys across the country, people reach a certain point where they're just like,
No more.
no more, no more. So and it depends on the stakeholder group. You have a lot more stamina with your teachers, a little bit more stamina with your parents. Your students, of course, they're going to participate when you tell them to. It's very interesting because you want to have the conversation all the time, but you really need to be selective and capture their full attention at the time. So, it's important to send out all those things in the backpack and, update the website and all of that. But when you stress the point that this is your chance for us to hear from you, we know you can't come out to every board meeting. We know that you don't have time to pick up the phone and call us. But this is valuable. This is important. These are your tax dollars at work. We need you. You have a vested interest. So these are just examples of various things that we've tackled for districts, issues that they have, some passionate issues in there, school closure, school choice, one-to-one laptop initiatives. We're doing a ton of work with districts across the country relative to bring your own device and implementing technology. There's a lot of concern out there. You're dealing with the public who is seeing a number of things. Maybe they're seeing it on CNN, maybe they're catching it on Facebook. Who knows? They'll have a conceptualization of what that means, but where the rubber meets the road, they have no idea. So allowing them to be part of the process and understanding what that means and how it's going to be implemented in the classroom. Kids are different now. I remember when I was a kid, and I'll take a little sidebar, I just wanted that phone line in my room. That's all I cared about. I delivered 9 trillion newspapers to, pay for my folks, to let me have a phone line in my room. How are kids now? They have these gadgets here. My son sent 10,000 text messages in 1 month. I happen to call Verizon, changing around the plan. I'm always making sure I don't run into any trouble. It's amazing how they communicate now. They're communicating through Facebook, they're chatting, they're text messaging. How does that impact what happens in the classroom? How can we integrate what they love and really where where we're evolving as a human race now, and how we interact and how we accomplish things to allow kids to learn on those platforms and let it be part of the process. We need to step back and educate folks like myself who didn't grow up that way, but have kids. So, these are just examples of some of the high-stakes issues that we address for school districts. Another example was a district that reached out to us to conduct a number of focus groups around rebranding, creating a new logo, a new school motto, and involving, folks within the community, having teachers participate, kids participate. It really was a wonderful experience. And what does that build? That builds engagement. If you want to have, if you want people to be attached to what's going on out there, you need to get some of their investment. You can't just shove a bunch of stuff out to them and expect them to become attached to it. You need to have some back and forth. And there's limits to that. So how do you do it, and how do you have it be the most effective that it can possibly be? So annual communications initiatives, these are things that are incorporated within the master plan, so to speak. Feedback on operational issues. We have tools to address all of these things, and really making sure that this is done in a clear and concise way, and you've got it on a calendar of events, so it's in conjunction with what everyone else is doing at the site level. So research, anything you do for program evaluation and grant proposals, that we can also manage as well. We handle a lot of the PR pieces around these strategic issues that are out there, helping you understand and relaying that message out to the community. So these are pieces that we've written in conjunction with the district. And this is a sample of what you can expect as far as reporting. I don't want to, it's really not the context that I want to show you, it's just more of an example of how the reports will look. Giving some understanding to what that data is part of the experience that we bring to the table. So how do we do it? A systems approach to engaging the silent majority, branding and marketing, fusion of communication and research, 100% customized to the district, finding that silent majority, taking care of all of your commonly deployed initiatives, and all the reporting and communication. So, but this is a good point. If there's any questions or anything that you want to throw to me, this is a great time to do it. Go ahead, Don.
I don't know if you were going to get to this, Dan. We just completed this dual immersion survey. When we see the results of this, is there any type of report from you as far as the validity of the data we're getting, or that we reach the right percentage of respondents, things of that nature?
Absolutely. We'll always tell you when your response rates are low, and we'll make recommendations on how we can enrich that on future attempts. And we also do it on the front end. I mean, we'll go so far as to, like with a climate survey that's going out to the community, there's a lot of folks that don't have kids within the district. We'll even align with and help you align with your local utility. So the bill that goes out before that climate survey goes live, there'll be an invitation there. Go to this link. Go to the school website. We need to hear from you. And even have a phone number there that they can call, and we'll mail them.
Do you have a range of what you would expect for parents? We send it out to all the parents. What percentage we would expect
Parents,
to see back?
you really want to see 1 out of 5, 20% is a reasonable goal. That gives you a very good indication of the sentiments that are out there, as long as it's been deployed correctly and that you're reaching out and ensuring that you're getting everybody out there and it's not just a select group of parents. Mm-hmm. You want to make sure that everybody has the chance to participate. And reaching out to the community, striving for 1 out of every 10. Catherine.
Yeah, thank you.
A little bit of a follow-up on this about the survey that we just did for dual immersion. You said earlier that it's important to close the loop and share the information of the surveys. Do you have recommendations of how we do that with the public, or what do we share out of the survey?
Absolutely. Well, we'll complete a report, and it will go through the data. And of course, we talk with the district and craft the report and formulate those action items for the next step based upon what you found out and what the intentions are. And then create PR around that will allow you to share that information via, obviously it'll be on the website via our Your Voice section. We can put together a blurb that can go on your Facebook page if you've got it, Twitter feed if you've got it. Anything that we need to send out, we'll give it to you in a Word document so you can send it back to parents if necessary. We recommend doing everything possible that you can do to get that message back out so that people know that they were part of the process. So folks who responded, we've got a direct link there. We'll be able to link right back up with those folks who responded. That's how they took the survey, if they didn't take it on paper, and we'll share it. And it's also important to share it with the folks who didn't respond.
I think it's a
Thank you.
philosophical question. Yeah. So, we're a governing body of 5, obviously, and it's our responsibility to make, as leaders, to digest all of the information that we have access to and make decisions. So I just don't want, I support surveys. I think they're a very helpful tool, but I don't want to mislead the public either, to think that the survey is the end all. There are a lot of pieces involved with our decision. So I just want to make it clear that the survey piece is just really a small piece but one that is valuable, because we can.
But there is I think Steve's kind of getting to one of the dangers of surveying, and I think that's why you said maybe 2 community surveys a year.
Yeah.
Because if this board, particularly because they're a board of trustees, and it's a little different than a board of directors, but a board of trustees, if surveying becomes the kind of modus operandi, and everyone thinks that's how they make decisions, that's not going to work.
Exactly, and that's part of what's articulated, that this is part of the process.
Right.
That they want, you've got a responsibility to manage and run this district. You're going to make the decisions that need to be made. The fact of the matter is that you appreciate the fact that these folks are within the community, they're paying taxes, and they should be part of the process. You acknowledge and appreciate that. And, there's a level of understanding and also of accountability when decisions are made.
So I think
Better to have a community that's engaged rather than one where a decision is made and they've come back and said, well, why did you do this?
Right. I mean, to my point, when you're going to do district surveying board, you have to be careful and make sure those are big issues. We just did one. It's a big issue for this community, dual immersion. If you're going to build a school, that's a big issue. But you have to be cautious because certainly the site-based ones are a completely different connotation. This is our neighborhood school. We like what's going on in it. We don't like what's going on. But if you're not careful, surveying vehicles to the board of trustees, and pretty soon people are going to say, well, how come you didn't survey me for every single issue that comes in front of you? And that's not going to work either.
No, and that will arise when it's time for a bond election.
Now,
So,
another big
how do we have that
example of
great conversation and bring the community and allow them to be part of the process? Because they are.
Because
They pay for this school district and they need to be heard. And this is a way that allows them to be part of the process. And, was this something that school districts were doing 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago? No. It would just happen. Now, with the advent of technology that I talked about before, people are going into different directions. They're very busy now. Do you remember the day when you didn't have a cell phone and you could just drive? Those days are gone. I'm available 24/7. That's the life we live in. That's the life that our kids are being taught in. That's the life that they see and understand, and that's why they communicate the way they do. It's not just because of the gadgets, it's because that's how we live.
So, just in conclusion, the decision that we ultimately make may not match to the end result of the survey. I mean, that's a possibility.
Absolutely, it's a tool.
Yeah.
It's, sometimes you're going to have to make hard decisions based upon, a number of other factors that are further than just the voice. Sometimes there's going to be things that you want to do, but you just can't, even though everybody wants you to do them.
And yeah, to that point, Dan, I guess, I don't know when these surveys are put out, if there is kind of that opening paragraph about this is one piece
Absolutely.
of information.
Yes.
Because a good
Yeah.
example we had a couple of years ago, we did a survey on when the school year should start.
Yeah.
Labor Day, 2 weeks before, 1
We
week
do it
before.
all the time.
And as you can imagine, it came in a little bit different. Each group wanted something else. So once we picked what we wanted to do, two groups lost, which
Yeah.
obviously comes across as you're not listening to me. I voted this, and
But
that's,
you
that's
asked,
a challenge that we want to make sure.
and you always want the message out there that you asked. It just like, in everybody's household, if everybody got everything, it'd be a whole different story. But, you can't have everything. There's limitations. Understanding those limitations and, reaching out to the community, reaching out to your teachers, whatever it may be, and allowing them to participate and be part of it, it means a lot, and it's important. Go ahead, Paul.
I think one of the problems that we've had is when we're trying to reach out to the public in general, is that we haven't had a great database of email addresses.
Sure.
And do you have strategies to increase that so that when we are sending something out to the general public, we don't have to, we already have, several thousand of them at the push of a button rather than having to go out and try to reach people in other methods that may be more cumbersome.
Well, what we do is on the front end, when you're working with parents, we make recommendations to the district on how to collect those. We can also, some districts are just, they're so far behind it that we actually create this mini survey on the Your Voice section that says, if you want to receive notifications of the next opportunity to participate, give us your email address. Making sure that you have quality, valid email addresses from your parents is very important. That's one of the methods of communication. And frankly, it's the preferred method of
Well,
communication.
but I'm not talking about parents.
I'm leading up to
I'm
that.
talking about the general public that,
Yeah, the general
that
public.
may want to participate, but we haven't been able to find them. They can't find us without a cumbersome effort to go
Absolutely.
to the website. Are there ways of reaching out to the public in a way to say, okay, give us your name, give us what your demographic is, and
We do that as far as reaching out and having, as part of the climate survey that goes out to the community, that opportunity for them to add their email address. So we can add that to the database. You can continually do that over time, and you'll grab more folks that are out there who aren't as close to the district like parents.
And Heather is actually building some of those databases through the weekly update stuff, because she's at the bottom, it's always, send us your email, we'd love to include you, and then we build those databases. But, that's a little slower than, for instance, taking them all out of Skyward. It's because the parent emails are easy for us, we've got them.
Yeah. But we can also communicate that, or invite people to participate through our partners in ed, which is also now mailbox stuff, so we're reaching even more with the partners in ed than we were before, where they may or may not have picked it up in the paper. So we're tracking that participation as well. So there are opportunities.
maybe we're considering some sort of a campaign.
Absolutely. I agree.
Newspaper articles, radio, saying, this is, the board has decided to make this investment, and these are the goals of this investment, and to make this work, we need all of you. I mean, that to really, because the one chunk that I see missing is the larger public, the further away people are from
Yeah.
the school itself.
No, I think you're right. However, I will tell you, I bet if you look at our participation rate for the public as compared to a lot of other communities, I bet we're way higher than a lot of other ones. It doesn't mean that we've arrived, because we haven't. We have to continue to get those.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of communities. I was at one before where a high participation rate was 50 people.
Yeah, it's
Well,
hard.
I mean, we need to try to give them the opportunity as much as
I
possible.
agree.
And now you have a
Particularly
place
for
to steer them
when
to. You can steer them to the Your Voice section of the website, which is designed to hear from you.
Yep.
So it's not just a blanket, here's the email, just reach out to. When they go there, they're going to see the welcome message for you. They're going to see everything right there at their fingertips. And as that progresses over time and sharing their involvement, they'll feel like they're part of the process, because they are. So this is just an example of educating and informing how you phrase a question. Giving some background. Our high school was built in 1957. Rather than just saying the question, would you support building a new high school building? Have some context behind that so they understand what the problem is. In many districts out there, the cost of maintaining a school is actually outweighs what it would cost to build a new one. The public doesn't understand that. Making sure that when they know they're going out for a bond referendum, reaching out to them and gaining what their tolerance levels are, understanding how they feel, letting them know what that translates to, as far as a monthly cost added to their tax. So, based upon how they respond, you can also have an open response box where what we'll do is provide you a separate report with that, and you'll be able to see the open responses that were filled out. So, asking the right question. How important is the role of central office in your child's education? This was off of an actual survey that was conducted in North Carolina. You know, the central office was a little, you know, they were a little saddened by this, important or highly important, 24%. And they were concerned about it. And, you know, what we said was, you know, frankly, they probably don't understand what you do. They have no idea what that question means. So what we did when we deployed the survey for them is added in the context. By the way, central office provides the following services: hiring qualified teachers, their continued education, food services, transportation services. Well, when we got the results back, it went up to 86%. And they were excited. You know, they said, everybody loves us out there now. I said, you know, that's not the power of what just happened. 100% of the people who took that survey know what central office does. So simple example, but very, very true. There's a real art and science to crafting these things. And they have to be driven towards not just gathering the data. We can't be selfish. You know, make this about educating, informing, and engaging. Yes, sir.
It was really interesting what you just said, that it's not about the fact that 86% thought that the central office was important or highly important. It's that they understood what the central office does. 100%. That's what's an interesting point of view.
We've seen districts get into trouble with survey questions. You know, and a lot of these things will happen at the site level. They'll get thrown out there and really blow up into a situation where the district ends up expending hours and hours of resources just to change the message and make sure that the correct message is out there. You know, survey, this is an actual question from a district in Texas. Given the budget shortfall and need to be efficient with our resources, do you support the closing of under-enrolled schools? This was on a survey that went out to parents. Valid from a business standpoint. What do you think the parents thought? Are you talking about my school? So it became a crazy issue, passionate issue. You have to be very careful on what goes out. So who does all the work? We do. We've got a point of contact within the district, Heather, and our point of contact in our office is Paige. And, you know, we recommend a crawl, walk, run approach. You know, this is something where you're going to see it's a cumulative effort over time. But it's really about the message, and we make sure that that message is out there. We craft it for you so that everyone knows that the school district, the board, they want to hear and have the community be part of the process. So that's it. I'm ready for questions and
I have one for you.
comments.
What happens, I know that internally in our schools, I mean, there's surveys taking place in that environment too.
Mhm.
I mean, with SurveyMonkey.
Sure.
You know, those basic things. So can we utilize,
Everything can be
K-12?
funneled through our platform. We highly recommend that. Many districts will actually put a protocol in place that no external surveying should be done outside of the platform. At least you know you have it all in the right place, and that you know that folks have looked at. You know, our team has looked at these tools to make sure that they're okay. And you know, a lot of times there's a lot of redundant questions out there that can be incorporated into other things that you're already doing.
well, the wrong question could be asked at a school level that we may not be aware of.
Absolutely.
What we're going to try to do, Steve, because you're right, in our schools, we have used SurveyMonkey. We used them, you know, in an appropriate way, but before K-12 came on, and what we would rather do is not use it. What we'd rather do is use K-12 for those, even if they're short internal surveys of the staff. So we're going to give the staff, rather than just sending out a SurveyMonkey, because guess what? They'll help us craft 5 good questions, right? And there's validity to it, and plus, it's done on the outside, not on the inside. That gives people some confidence that, well, geez, should I really answer right or not? It's just being done by my principal, just being done by Mr. Jurovich, or is it really, you know, an independent part? So to answer that question, we're going to try it. We would like to work with this platform.
Great. So it's centralized repository.
I think
It
it's.
is.
work
And it's
in
unlimited
progress.
use, unlimited support, unlimited training.
Great.
Yep.
As a follow-up to Steve's, and I don't know this, but at the high school level, I don't know if the students sometimes want to put a survey out to the students to ask, gee, we don't want fish on Friday anymore, that type of thing. Is that something that would work well here too, or do you have
They could use
problems
the
managing
technology.
that, Pete?
Well, I think we could totally work with K-12 on something like
I
that.
don't know how often that happens, or...
Yeah, change the vending machine, we're tired of the
Yeah.
jujubes or whatever, yeah, we could do all kinds of things.
Okay.
Yeah.
One thing we talked about, board, if I could, just for a quick second, at the admin council were the parent surveys. And, the parent surveys, which are mandated by the state of Idaho, I think our board has said we want them. I mean, I don't know what's going to happen if the referendums go down, but we see them as pretty positive things. One of the things we talked about is something that happened this last year. We didn't get good response because here's what happened. It goes out to 7, if you're a parent, Sabina Barber's father, we got 7 individual surveys, one for each teacher. Now, we got Sabina next to us and we filled them out, but I have to tell you, we got fatigued doing 7 over. And one of the things we talked about, which makes a lot of sense to me, is maybe those surveys should be 3 or 4 questions, not 8 or 10 or 11. They're shorter, they're easier to navigate, because after a while, each one of those, I think, as I recall, those surveys were like 11 questions or something like that. Does that sound right?
6 to 8,
8,
somewhere around
but
there.
listen,
Yeah.
so 8 times 7 is 56. 4 times 7 is 28. And so that's the work that we can work with. These guys have a lot of expertise in that area to talk about. And as long as you end up with the right questions, 4 can be more effective than 8. And certainly more workable for parents.
This is kind of a Heather Dan question. Is there a spot, Heather, or will there be a spot? I know Sean's kind of been on the dashboard topic on our website. Will there be a spot, survey says, with just as surveys occur, people will be able to see the results, whether they were involved or not?
So if you click on your voice, this is where our surveys live. And so eventually this is where the live conversation, which I'm going to talk to Paige about, but I would like there's something to be kind of like a history of here was the DI survey, it's closed, because I think that would be helpful for the public. But then there would be, here's the DI survey and here's the result or the report, and people could, that's where it would live, right there
Okay.
under your voice. And so it'd be
That's
kind of an ongoing
exactly.
piece.
And people will get, the calendar will be on there as well. And we also, part of the technology, if you have any forms that, it could be a bus change form, whatever it is, you can give them to us. We can upload them to our platform. You can include a tab on your website so they can go and fill out those forms via that means rather than just paper. We want to make sure that we can drive as many folks to your website as possible. And having it be a way that drives them there is advantageous. And they'll see the Your Voice section, which again will have that history. So
Did you say there's a mobile app?
I was going to say that, and I was just going to answer Catherine's question before.
Go ahead, Keenan.
Okay. We also have a mobile application. It's in beta now. It should be released within the next 30 to 45 days. It can be downloaded for free from Android or Apple marketplaces. It'll have the district's logo on it. It's your app. Has a link to your website, link to your school calendar. And what we're most interested in is that folks can take surveys on it via smartphone. So, and you can also use the technology as notification. So whether it be emergency notification or you're driving out a reminder, you can utilize that as well. So via MMS technology. So we can send invitations for surveys via that means as well. So we're, it's, how do you get that message out there? And that's that multi-pronged approach.
Have you ever seen a school district with like a Your Voice section where it's just an open comment? If a parent of Catherine Graves just wants to click in and send a comment, but they don't want to send a letter to all the school board members or to the superintendent.
There's a means for them to do that, but we don't post it there. Because you do for one, you have to do for all. If they have a comment and they want to submit it for review, there can be a place there for it. Go ahead, Heather.
Catherine, I'm sorry, we had a little bit of an issue getting this formatted onto our website. If you look at it on your own computer, it looks a little bit better. But if you see in the text box the message from the superintendent there,
Yeah.
it does say surveys provide two-way communication that's
Mhm.
critical to our continuous improvement.
Mhm.
Other ways include public comment
Yeah.
at Board of Trustees
Yeah.
meetings, coffees, special board meetings, committee meetings, and more. So we are trying to get the message across that there are other ways.
Right. I was
for
just
them
curious
to
if he'd
communicate.
seen anything like that.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, and that's why on the dual immersion survey, when I sent out the last reminder through the weekly update that the survey was closing, I also included the links to the public comment page on the board website because I wanted people to know that, if they felt limited by the character count
Yeah.
on the opening
That
of
was
the
great.
question, that they could make a comment straight to the board.
Yeah, that was great.
It's fair to say that there's bullies in every community across the country. I visit a school board every single week, sometimes a couple of them. And they're out there. And for whatever reason, they feel how they feel about education. They know that they have to pay for it, and it comes out of their taxes. They don't have kids within the district. They're not interested. And they will take aggressive means to get their message out there. Sometimes the information is correct, sometimes it's not. At the end of the day, how do you combat that? And really, it's not a fight. It's just a matter of getting your message out there and building that engagement. How do you have that great conversation? Because that's what you need to do. I don't know if you've read Jamie Vollmer's book, Schools Can't Do It Alone. I mean, really, it's come down to, we've got all this technology. It comes down to having that connection, that conversation, that investment so you have attachment. Because there's going to be those folks out there, and they're entitled to feel that way. They're doing their civic duty. I applaud them for that. But they're getting their message out there, and it's louder than yours. How do you address it? You never had to worry about that before. Now you do.
I'd like to talk a little bit more, maybe it's a different meeting, but more about the investment piece. And I think that's huge.
Well, yeah.
It's big.
It is big, and it's not investment of financial capital. How do you get people to invest themselves in what you're doing? You don't do it by shoving them a note in a backpack. You don't do it by just, here's our website. This is about getting them involved. This is about creating involvement. This is about stepping back and doing focus groups or not, but getting the message out to your teachers who need to be your biggest advocate out there in the community. This is about changing the conversation. Everyone wants to pick on the school district. It's an easy target. Here you go. You know what? All that rhetoric, all that going around in the circle, the quagmire of dismay, I call it, slows down the process. And you know who suffers? It's the kids. End of story. It's the kids. We all have that responsibility, whether you're a teacher, a parent, a board member, a superintendent, a community member, to be part of that process and make sure we're doing the best for our kids. And doing it in a responsible way.
So the surveys may encourage some of that investment.
Absolutely.
But so would, say, community mentoring, which we do some of, already. But like I say, maybe that's another discussion, and I'm sure Heather has all kinds of great ideas and Lonnie on that piece. But,
Key people of influence within the community.
Yeah, and we do that. We
Community-based
see our city
organizations.
leaders and business folks, and we're
Part
going
of-
in the right direction.
Yeah, part of the exploration of what we're doing as we go through this first year will be, as we address the second year and create that calendar of events, what's the message? It's not about the surveys we're doing. What's the message? What have we learned? What are we going to do? That's what we help you get out there. This is about creating excitement and getting the community involved. This is not about preaching to the community. You need to be involved. You pay for it. You need to be involved. No, this is about them being part of the process and selecting those conversations that are the most important to have, because you can't have them all. You know, I'm not going to, if I walk down the street, how much time do you think a person off the street is going to give me if I pull them aside and start talking about the school district?
John?
It's also about creating opportunities for that involvement, like something I've seen that Lonnie's brought to the tables. You know, we meet monthly with the PTAs.
Mhm.
That's something that wasn't happening before. You know, that gives them an opportunity to really see and interact with the central office, not just their building administration. So just giving opportunities like that. Like Lonnie also said, we haven't arrived by any means. It's one of those continual improvement type of things. We're always looking to improve it, and we always will be. So this is just another piece of that puzzle. You know, we're constantly trying to be better.
Good.
And they know that you're not reaching out just because you need something.
Right.
Heather?
Dan, I took the liberty to just go to your website. Dan and other people at K-12 write a blog and send it out, and it's really informative and wonderful. And if you ever go onto their website, you can subscribe to their blog, which I do. And Dan's most recent article was about an event in California. I don't know if you want to mention that. 'Cause
It was in Texas, actually.
Okay.
And it involved a table of, it was in a private residence, and it involved some CEOs and people of extreme influence, CEOs of Fortune 100 corporations. And the conversation around the table was, as it reached a superintendent, was, so what do you do? Well, I'm a superintendent. They're like, where? What school? You know, what school? Well, actually, of the district, we have 16,000 plus kids, the public school district. And everyone looked at her and said, do people really go to public school anymore? Everyone they talk to, deal with, all their kids go to private schools. They had no idea about this world of public education. And, you know, that's somewhat profound when you think about it. That, again, is a small group. You know, the people that we serve essentially are not those folks. They're the kids that come to the school. But if there's folks out there that are that disengaged, who are some of the, you know, technically smartest people that are out there, highly successful, is that where we've gone? Is that where we've ended up? You know, and so sometimes you can think on a real high-level issue, but at the end of the day, you get down to the roots of it. It's all about the conversation. It's not about, you know, how many kids do you think should be in a class size? You know, it's about the message behind that. What's best for our kids, and how do we get there? And the need, because school districts now, they need their communities more than ever. You know how many bond elections I've seen for and I do a ton of work in Texas. How many bond elections I've seen fail by 60 votes? I have a superintendent who's a very good friend of mine. He lost his bond election by 4 votes. Do you know how much the time, effort went into preparing that to put it on the ballot? To lose by 4 votes? I could have found 4 janitors that should have voted. You know, how do you find 4 people? It's happening all across the country. Now, what do they have to do? Step back, do some work through us, find out what those tolerance levels are, find out what will pass and what meets the needs and the expectations of the kids in the community, put it back out, and they passed it the next time around. But it's, how did they get there? A small group stepped up and said, you know, this is what's going on, you know, these are the problems, this is why you shouldn't vote for it. So you're battling that. You can't do that right before an election. You need to be having that conversation a year, 2 years in advance. So how do you build up that core of folks out there within the community so you can have that dialogue? You know, this is not something that you turn on.
We went through that. We passed it, but we went through that exact same thing here.
So you get to a point where, you know, there's support and strength within the community for what you're doing. Because you know what? I've been to a lot of school districts, and all of them know what they're doing. They have good intentions. There's no boards out there that are trying to, you know, do bad things, you know, just for their own interests. They're there to help kids. They are. I believe that. And why I say it that way is because we need to believe it that way. We need to have that conversation each and every day. It's not about, oh, what are they doing? They're self-serving, they've got an extra grind, whatever. No, I'm saying it that way. Doesn't it sound crazy? But it's true. That's how you need to think. Every single person that you talk to in this community, it better be positive about the school district.
It doesn't sound crazy. We deal with
No,
it.
it's right on. No.
Dan, I was going to ask you a question, and this kind of goes to Heather and Molly as well. And with this latest dual immersion survey we put out there, I think a big part of it was the outreach these guys did, which was really boots on the ground, going door to door, providing information to people prior to the survey. And I don't know if you have a comment or strategies on how to go about doing that type. I don't know how you guys formulated your plan, but it was a great plan of getting out and putting a face at somebody's doorstep.
It's great. Be careful. There's no unchained dogs. It's tough, for a lot of the larger districts that we work with. It's virtually impossible to do that. But if you have that great conversation, if you map out your key points of influence within your community, get them involved, that's how you do it. You need to proliferate that positive message and the good things that you're doing out to the community and encourage them to go to the website, encourage them to be part of the process for you guys. It will only make your jobs easier in deciding those difficult things. And, this isn't about, we perfectly understand that you're not going to make everyone happy. But at the end of the day, there's a responsibility to do the best we can for kids. And, how can you do that? By hearing from everyone out there that you serve. So really it just comes down to, and I don't want to sound like I'm preaching, but this is just about a conversation and how do you have it, and making sure that it's a good conversation. You always hear about all those folks who can sit around and talk about all the bad stuff going on. That's what everybody wants to talk about. That's what gets everybody into this. It's about changing that. And this isn't some game or reality TV show where it's just you want it to be way off on the side and totally, entertaining. This isn't a game. This is about kids learning. This is about preparing them for the next step in their lives. Do people out in the community really understand how things are different now? How, it used to be that you could train so many kids. We deal with this all across the country where, it used to be that there's all these jobs that kids could do right out of high school, and they would prepare them vocationally for those jobs. Jobs are different now. You're dealing with technology and a lot of things, and this, may not be applicable to Blaine County, but in many communities it is. The jobs that were once there aren't there anymore. How do we prepare our kids?
Listen, we went from 22% free and reduced to 42 in 4 years.
In
So
4
it is-
years. So what
it
does
is
that tell you?
applicable here.
Yeah, what does that tell you? You've got an influx of folks coming into the community. I'm fair to say that maybe a portion of those folks, English isn't the first language.
Many of them it isn't, but many more than we would imagine it is, because we had a robust construction industry here. And resort towns soar the highest when it's good and fall the lowest when it's down. And we had a lot of our people who had lived here for many years went on free and reduced lunches.
Yeah.
They were forced to.
But Don, to answer your question, I do think that Molly received this feedback too. People really appreciated the opportunity to participate in that survey, and I think it could be just the beginning of the opportunity for continued outreach. And I think with the new, there might be some opportunity for other outreach like that in the future. And like Dan's talking about, you start this conversation 2 years before you take a big initiative to the community. And I think if we can continue that conversation with the new friends that we've made through the outreach we've done with the DI survey, that's going to help us in the long run continue to have that investment and leverage that investment. So.
As I said, I don't know if you guys have read it yet. I just sent it yesterday, the mid-month board report. But as I said, that outreach, which, right before it starts, and we did 4 specifically on dual immersion just in the last few weeks, you don't know how those are gonna go, but I'm gonna echo what Heather said. I think that just the action itself calmed a lot of people down. We didn't have any contentious meetings of those four. We had great questions being asked, but if you're not doing that, I mean, as I've told you guys, it's not gonna really make your job any easier, except, because, especially in this particular one, because we already know that it's the continuum of views of this program, except we actually built goodwill beyond just this survey with the folks for reaching out and doing it, right? And I think everyone who was involved felt like that. The meetings never got contentious, and I just had this feeling that they were just glad to be there, that they were glad that we brought them to the table.
Yeah, I think it's being
Opportunity.
on the front end of and engaging. I think it's so
Yeah, I agree.
important, the timing of it all.
I think the survey even allowed for a platform for further conversation too. Like Heather and I had some really in-depth conversations with parents that came to the meetings that were interested in taking the survey and wanted even more. And they're more engaged now because of that two-way
Very
communication.
positive.
John?
I was just gonna say, it's looking for those opportunities, like using the Catholic Church. I mean, that's where that community conjugates. I mean, that's how you reach them. Also, things like being involved in Rotaries. We're a member of the Haley Rotary. Me and Mike have been there for the last year and this year, and now I'm looking at joining Ketchum Rotary, because a lot of times we get up to Ketchum when we want something or when we're asking for something. And I've developed a relationship with John Shear, and so I've been going up to the Ketchum Rotary. They love having me there because I'm not asking for anything. I'm there to answer their questions. I'm there to involve those people. So there's some real influential people in the Ketchum Rotary that if I'm communicating to them that these opportunities are here for you to take these surveys, boom, there's 30 people in that room that are going to go out and spread that to their friends. So it's just engaging people, where they conjugate, where they group together, and making sure that they hear the message.
Lonnie, could you do me a favor, please? Once you guys get closer to the completing the draft calendar, the schedule on those surveys,
Yeah.
could you forward that to the board?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And we'll take another look at it. I think we actually started up from your platform, and then we add or
Absolutely.
subtract from it or
Yeah.
whatever, but
Mhm.
absolutely we will do that.
Great.
Yep.
Dan, thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Very
Thanks,
informative.
Dan.
Thank you.
Dan.
Thanks
you
for
for having
coming,
me.
Dan. It's been a great morning, and this session was great, well worth our time. So I hope it
Well, I
was worth your
appreciate
time.
it.
Dan.
I'll love any excuse to come out to this roof.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you, it's nice to meet you.
Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
All in second? All in favor?
All right.
Meeting adjourned.
I have a cookie if anybody wants one.
Somebody get my cookie too.
I don't want to throw it away.
There's 6 pickles.
Eat.
No, I'm good. I'm good. Thank you.